city centre of Leeds, West Yorkshire 2013. Along with the engineering of Leeds into a relatively economic powerhouse, it seems to have followed an almost identical pasting of all the traits usually found in the big financial centres like the City of London. However, it is in a much smaller area circling this city's railway station, after which it begins again to look more like a typically post-heavy industrial northern city and the Yorkshire town. Looking down towards the train station, January 2013. This small area of Leeds is probably the most powerful part of Yorkshire, a financial hub that has become the only hub of a discontinuous West Yorkshire sprawl that consists of over 2 million people, and it is an area that has more in common with the City of London than the landscape just a quarter of a mile either side to it. Other large nearby settlements, especially Bradford, which was once as prosperous as Leeds, have seen a gradual decline since their demise as industrial bases. Leeds is now often seen as the capital of Yorkshire. The speed of life in this colony island of the global financial empire is much faster than 10 minutes walk either way, which is why it seems so misplaced. There is an expectation to be met with tuts if you take your time. You have to run across the street after actually casually stepping out, because a car that in normal circumstances is a safe distance away advances towards you with the speed of a motorway slip road acceleration. Although I do find Leeds overwhelming due to the lack of time to acclimatise to the sudden big city feel, which seems to come out of nowhere amidst the older and softer looking Yorkshire settlements and hills, I do have some affinity to both it and Sheffield. Because my location in the old West Riding is exactly 14 miles both ways from Leeds and Sheffield, they both feel like my home big cities. Around 4 to 5 years ago, during the dawn of this current recession, I used to spend many days walking around the centre of Leeds City, listening to the analogue synthesizer pop by the likes of Kraftwerk and John Fox, dreaming of a future that never arrived, feeling that this music was made for this future. The pre-recession and staggered post-recession development in Leeds seems to cluster most heavily around the train station, as if the city were aggressively trying to prove itself to incomers on their arrival into the city. But if anything, the buildings loom over the visitor as they arrive, generating a sensation of pressure and intensity. Here is a recently built cylindrical red brick tower next to the station. Many people in nearby towns seem to have an unusual dislike for Leeds. I presume this is down to the notorious reputation of the fans of Leeds United Football Club, but also due to the peculiar concoction of bling, upmarket consumerism, hustle and bustle, and the murmuring aggression of a small town identity that has found itself inside a big financial city. They all come together due to the centre's quite inhumane urban geography. Leeds, 2008. The Leeds Wall of Fame, minus the late Jimmy Savile, January 2013. The gap left here indicated to me that the photo had been hastily removed during the eruption of the child sex scandals involving the deceased Leeds-born television presenter. This is housing condemned to be demolished in the Little London area of Leeds, spring 2010. This is one of the very upmarket clothes shops you find around the centre, around the Victoria Quarter. This was in spring 2010. In an introduction to the critique of urban geography, Guy Debord writes how sudden change of ambience in a street within the space of a few metres, the evident division of a city into zones of distinct psychic atmospheres, the path of least resistance that is automatically followed in aimless strolls, and which has no relation to the physical contour of the terrain, the appealing or repelling character of certain places. This quote comes to mind around the centre of Leeds, where one can find themselves placed in a very different frame of mind from one street to another. Some streets have an air of frustration. On others, one is confronted with brash brands and high street charity workers, and these such streets when one initially feels at ease in the atmospheric numbness, only to begin to feel like an outsider or even criminal due to one's inability to afford the goods. A closed fairground ride, Leeds Market 2010. Just 2 minutes walk from the Victoria Quarter. Homelessness in Leeds, January 2013. Every time I'm in the centre of Leeds, the amount of visible homelessness always shocks me. This small area in the centre has become a financial hub, and with it, all the traits of a global city: great wealth next to great poverty, ill-fitting to the actual size of the city borough. You do wonder where these people could have all possibly come from, as it looks too extreme. Without forgetting the suffering such an existence must create, it does often look like a stage set of a typical city scene, an hyper-real cityscape, which could explain why people find it so easy to be indifferent to others suffering in such areas. Looking towards recently built private apartments, early 2009. An housing estate to the west of Leeds city centre, spring 2010. Leeds train station, late 2009. Possibly the most bustling place in the whole of Yorkshire, the station shows how the centre of Leeds now has far more in common with central London and other global financial centres than the neighbouring town and city centres. The station is also possibly the greyest and most factory-like station in the area.